Let's say we have a repository that is made up of these three files. We want to start using version control in this project, so we create a new Git repository. In a Git repository, there are three main areas we need to know about. First, there's the working directory. Then there's the staging index. And last is the repository. So we have these three distinct areas in Git. When you're first working with Git, it can be a bit hard to realize that there are these three distinct areas because you don't really see any visible change to the files on your computer. Git manages these three different areas though, and we'll be using the git shell command to interact with files and move them from section to section. Okay, so we've created this empty Git repository. We can tell it's an empty repository because the repository section is empty. Git knows about files that it hasn't seen before. Let's indicate that a file is new with a green star. Git keeps track of files by adding them to the repository. We can't move these files right into the repository though. They have to be moved to the staging index first. So we'll use Git to move the changes to the staging index. Remember that the staging index is where you can place all of the files that are about to be committed. Now let's commit them, which moves them into the repository. Now the files in their current state are safe. Let's say we then make some changes to our site's CSS file. Git sees this change and marks the file as modified. We take the same steps to move the changes in the CSS file to the staging index, and then commit them. I think you get the idea, but let's look at it one more time. Let's say the HTML and JavaScript files have changed. Remember that Git knows what files are new or changed. We'll move these changes to the staging index, and then commit them. So the process is, add a new file or modify an existing file, move the changes to the staging index, commit the changes to the repository. You got it? Okay then, what about this scenario? Let's say the HTML and CSS files have changed, and we've staged the changes. If we then decide to modify the HTML file again, what would happen if we made a commit right now? Seems like a good time for a quiz.